Hey, good morning. It's Travels with Dottie, and it's Sunday. I think it's the second of June 2nd, 2024, and I'm in the home stretch here in Pahrump. Going to be leaving a week from Wednesday to go to New Mexico for the summer. Um, my was a little off because we're going to hit triple digits here in Pahrump this week. Instead, I didn't plan this a week earlier. I would have escaped the heat, but that's the way it goes. I did my best guess, and my best guess was wrong. I'm back in my favorite little spot here in Preferred RV Resort, and I hope the audio was good because I had the microphone in my hand down here by my side. So forgive me if the initial sound wasn't as good as it should be. I was sitting here for a while thinking, well, what am I going to talk about today? Well, I decided will come up in counseling sessions that end up being as much a learning experience for me as it is for the client. And the thing that's come up recently is on relationships. And I'll relate it to full-time RV life because as you're doing this full-time RV life, you're by yourself quite a bit. It's important to maintain relationships with other people on the road. At least it's important for me to keep connected. And of course, it's important to keep in contact with my siblings as well. There's a thing that can harm those relationships that is completely unintentional. And that is the concept of when advice becomes criticism, and that's from the perspective of the beholder, the recipient of the advice. Advice is a very frequent thing in full-time RV life when especially people are newer, they'll get a lot of advice from people that have more experience, which can be a wonderful thing, but it can also be a detriment to the relationships. What do I mean by that? I mean, it can be viewed as you're doing it wrong or you don't know what you're doing. I've had it really a friendship relationship that I had where I was well meaning, trying to give advice, and it was interpreted as a severe criticism. I couldn't help but notice that it was unsolicited advice I was given. I wasn't asked. I saw a problem and I said to myself, there's a problem, and I'm going to tell them how to make it right and how to do it right. And often that is a mistake. My father wrote this amazing letter to my brother when he graduated from college in 1968. It was a beautiful letter, and I'm going to do a short video where I read the letter. It's so wonderful. When my dad died, my brother and my brothers, sisters, and I, we didn't have a formal memorial or funeral or anything. He was cremated, and there was a gravesite next to my mother, and we all gathered there, and with no plan. And what happened was my brother pulled that letter out of the pocket and he read it. And after he read that letter, there was nothing more to say. I'll give you the full letter some other time. I mean, you're future, I promise. But in that letter, he said something very, very important for a parent. He was paraphrased because I don't have the letter with me, but he was talking about how significant it was that he was graduated from college and going to New York City for his first job. And he said, it's times like this that awakens in a father the desire to give advice. And my father says next, I shall resist that temptation and let you know whatever wisdom I might possess is always yours for the asking. And that was a beautiful thing for two reasons. It's a beautiful sentiment and a wonderful wonderful attitude to have about relationships. But what made it even more beautiful is I realized that my father lived those words his entire life. And his advice was always there for the asking. And as a consequence, I often ask, especially as an adult, I sought out advice from my father. He intuitively knew about this concept of how unsolicited advice can harm relationships. And the deceiving thing about it is it feels like you are showing caring and affection for someone when you give advice. It can be your love language, and often it's disastrous. So I try to emulate my father. I say I try because I told you I already had a relationship that was damaged by strive to not give advice unless I'm asked. And that can be really difficult in the counseling relationship because unlike many counselors, I am to give direct advice to clients. And I like to make sure that that advice is invited and not unsolicited. And it's easy for me in a counseling session to get caught up in the moment and want to say, hey, let me tell you why it's a bad idea to do that. And then the other side of that is it may be a bad idea, especially as a counselor, to say, well, would you like my advice on that? And that suggests that you have some information that they don't have, so it's hard for them to say no. So it's really best to be asked and to wait to be asked. And sometimes you can subtly ask questions, be curious about it. It'll naturally evolve into the client saying, okay, I hadn't thought about that. What do you think I might think about? And then the door opens. So I wanted to talk today about when advice becomes criticism. And I hope you found this video valuable, and I'll definitely see you on the next one. And as always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. This one in particular, I think it's wonderful. Take care.